all about the temple. This is our second message in this series, and we have a lot of text to go through today, but we're kind of going to put it in 10th gear. We're going to go fast, John. Going to get through a lot of this, because when we find Ezekiel talking about all of this stuff in these last several chapters, it all has to do with both a physical and a spiritual picture of what the temple's going to be like in that millennial reign, that 1,000 years when Christ comes back to earth and is in charge. So when we think about how all of this unfolds, this is a fact, April 28th, the year 573 BC. I wasn't born yet, but that's when Ezekiel had the vision for these last 8 chapters. And it's a significant date in the calendar for the Jewish people, because that signified it happened on the very first day of Passover. And that would have made it special in the context of all of the people that were of faith would have been acknowledging the presence of God that allowed them to be survivors. And this is a short verse that comes to us out of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 2. This month shall be the beginning of months for you. It is to be the first month of the year to you. So on this particular date, when Passover begins, it's the beginning of the Jewish year, the calendar year. So Ezekiel's got this vision, and he has all of this stuff happening to him. And in the vision, he visits the land of Israel again. He's doing something different because here he's looking at not people and devastation. He's looking at a city. He's looking at a new place. And a part of that is going to be this glorious new temple that is a part of what Joanne read for us today, that 40th chapter. We see a kind of a hint about what's going to be going on. You know, in the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year, the 10th of the month, that would be where he's now seated in Babylon. In the 14th year after the city was taken, on that same day the hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me there, meaning to Jerusalem. In the visions of God, he brought me into the land of Israel and set me on a very high mountain. Verse 3, so he brought me there, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze, with a line of flax and a measuring rod in his hand. And this is important because in this vision, he has witnessed a man who's going to help him understand dimensionally exactly what all this stuff's going to take, what everything is going to be measured out. Verse 4, the man said to me, Son of man, see with your eyes, hear with your ears, and give attention to all that I am going to show you. For you have been brought here in order to show it to you. Declare to the house of Israel all that you see. And as I think about this, here's Ezekiel. Now he's a priest and he's a prophet. So he's a knowledgeable man. He's educated. And he knows the scriptures, the Torah, the Old Testament laws, books of Moses. And here's this guy saying to him, now pay attention, because everything I'm going to show you, you got to tell everybody else. And you know how it is when we have these situations in life, and it happens in school a lot, where you are instructed to tell somebody something, whisper it, right? Then they tell somebody, and they tell somebody, and so on. And by the time it gets to the 10th person, it's like, what? That's nothing like what I told you. Well, here's this guide telling Ezekiel, you got to pay attention, because it's your job to make sure that people know all this stuff. That is a big responsibility, because it's not like this guy is going to say, well, here's what we're going to do. Just pay attention, and you're going to see stuff, you're going to hear stuff, and I want you to make sure you remember it all. Remember, just memorize it all. You got it made. It's really easy. Just, pay attention. Verse 4, then the man said to the Son of Man, see with your eyes, hear with your ears. He's emphasizing this. And give attention to all that I am going to show you, for you have been brought here in order to show it to you. Declare to the house of Israel all that you see. This is a charge that has been given him that is unique, except for possibly Jeremiah, where specifically he said, now you have to say this verbatim to all the people. The major prophets, Daniel and Ezra, all these others that have been provided instruction from the Lord, even back to Moses and Joshua. It's to all the people, but the specificity isn't there. It's not saying you have to remember every letter and every period and every exclamation point. No. This becomes very specific and unique. And it's because what he's going to be doing is giving him a vision of this glorious new temple. The dimensions for the temple are going to take place here. And it's up to him, to make sure that everybody knows what those dimensions are. Why would that be important? They're in Babylon. One day, they're going to go back to Jerusalem. And generationally, all this information is going to be passed on. It's just like the books of Moses. Everybody back in those times did their best to memorize all those 5 books. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So that they could pass it on to the next generation. And the scribes and the Pharisees that had the job of recording all this stuff, they were the ones that were on the hook for making sure that correctly. In the chapter, we would go back to verse number 5, and behold, there was a wall. This is the guy showing Ezekiel this is what you're going to see. Remember, he's on a high mountain. Here's this city. Now here's this. Behold, there was a wall on the outside of the temple all around, and the man's hand was a measuring rod of 6 cubits. That's about 10 feet, each of which was a cubit and a handbreadth. So he measured the thickness of the wall. Verse 6, measured the gate which faced east, measured the threshold, and I'm going through this quickly. There was a guard room on each side. Those were measured. Down at the bottom, there was a porch of the gate which went inward to face the inside of the courtyard. Measured that. Then he measured the porch of the gate facing everything. The porch of the gate was these dimensions. The reason I'm speeding through this is because all you're going to see here is numbers related to a specific thing. And as we get further into these chapters, there are a lot of numbers. If you've read ahead and you go into chapters 45, 6, 7, and 8, you'll see all these numbers. 6 cubits, 8 cubits, 500 cubits, 100 cubits, this cubit, that. All of this is something that Ezekiel's charged with remembering and passing that information on to the next generation. It's a miracle of how God worked in the life of this man. Verse 10, the guard rooms on the gate towards the east. All of these things that are significant in the construction of the temple. And we think of the temple as, here's this building, like the Dome of the Rock. Here's this building. It's going to be 100 feet by 200 feet. No, that's not what he's doing here. He's saying, here's this temple area, and we're going to find out later on, we're talking like 8 miles wide, 5 miles high. It's a big place. This is in the middle of Israel. And all of these things that are going to be applied, all of these measurements and all of this description of individual elements, all of this has to do with the way God has designed this temple, because it's going to be his home in the future. The width of the gateway going into the entrance. Verse 12, cubit wide, were 6 cubits square. So you had these places where the guards who allowed people in and out, 6 cubits squared. That's 100 by or 60 by 60. There's a bunch of soldiers in there, and they're part of the temple guard corps, and they only allow people in at certain times, and that's why there's so many of them. We're going to find out there's 12 gates, and all these different gates got guard rooms, and they're making sure that nobody can get in there that's supposed to not be in there. It's a crazy time. He measured the gate. This is all things that apply to architecture and civil construction. And I found this really fascinating. I've spent a lot of time reading it over and over and over, because I'm kind of into building stuff. I mean, that's kind of like my job, out in the world. But this is amazing how detailed all of this gets. And when you stop and analyze the way that the Lord has put every single thing into order for what's going to happen. If we would have a blueprint made based on these dimensions that are going through these next 4 chapters, we would be able to fully scale out this temple. This long, this wide, this high, these number of steps, these wide doors, these kind of curtains, and these kind of windows. All of this stuff is being spelled out. And we could actually do a rendering. And I've really thought about doing that sometime, but it's just that's a process. I could get a CAD program going and I could draw the temple for you guys. Not going to happen. Right now I'm working on a tunnel in Baltimore, Maryland, so I don't have time. Okay. Verse 14, he made the side pillars. If you can imagine, these are 60 cubits high, 60-foot tall pillars to the entrance. Okay? Now you start to get an understanding of the scale of this stuff, how big it's really going to be. Verse 15, from the front of the entrance gate to the front of the inner porch of the gate was 50 cubits. 50 feet from the entrance to the threshold. So you got this like hallway, and all of this is important because it gives the guards a chance to make sure you're supposed to be there, meaning whoever gets past the entrance. The guard rooms toward their side pillars, that's these 60-foot tall stanchions, within the gate all around. And likewise for the porches, there were windows all around the inside, and on the side pillar there were palm tree ornaments. So picture in your mind this hallway, 60 feet deep, and there's windows all along it. Why are there windows there? Well, because there's guard rooms all along there, and the guards are in there whistling while they're on coffee break, looking for seeing who's in the porch entry. This is really cool how this is all put together. It's fascinating. Then he brought me into the outer court. That's where we were in that picture, from Temple Mount. That was the outer court. And behold, there were chambers and a pavement made for the court all around. 30 chambers. So if a typical chamber was 60 feet square, 30 of them, now you start to see how big this guy is really going to be. This isn't like a church. This is massive. And when we put it into proper perspective, and we'll get to that towards the end of our study in Ezekiel, you'll realize that this thing is so massive, and it's that way because it has to hold literally hundreds of thousands of people at the high holy days. When all of this is done and everybody's back where they need to be, and God is in control and loving everybody and everybody's happy, and they go to the temple, there's got to be a place for them to go. And it's just like when I talked about the holy days for the people of Islam. They get squeezed in there somehow, but this temple's so much larger than what we see in Jerusalem today. The pavement, that is the lower pavement, was by the side of the gates, and it corresponded to the length of the gates. In other words, they've got all of this structure in place so that everybody that enters into it knows exactly what they're doing there for. Why are you here? Well, you're here to worship the Lord. This is the Lord's house. Well, how do I know? Well, because it's designed this way and everything is thus and so, and you're going to never, never, never realize that it's something else other than the house of the Lord. Then he measured the width from the front of the lower gate to the front of the exterior of the inner court, 100 cubits on the east end and the north. That's 1,000 feet. Okay? This is how far it is from the gate to the outer court to the gate to the inner court. So this is significant because when we go to this outer court, we get a real picture about the massive size of all this stuff. And I'm sorry if I'm boring you here with all this kind of stuff, but it's the reality that when God, through his prophetic word, foretells something, I mean, that's what prophecy is. It's future telling. It's foretelling. When he is going to all this trouble to have a prophet pass on to all of the people that are a part of his earthly family, meaning the Hebrews, it's done because he wants everyone to understand he's the reason they're there. He's the reason they live. He's the reason they've had difficulty. And they have to fess up and start worshiping him the right way again, like they did at the time of Solomon, and make life good for everybody. Verse 20, as for the gate of the outer court, which is facing north, he measured it, blah, blah. It only had 3 guard rooms on each side, too. Imagine that. Everywhere you turn, you'll see these areas where there are all of these guards. And at the end of the day, we're talking about an army, literally, guarding the temple. All of these guard rooms that are there, it's kind of like a Fort Knox situation. That's kind of security. Nobody's getting through that should not be able to be there. It had 3 guard rooms on each side, and its side pillars, porches had the same measurements, 60 foot tall, big doors. Its length was 50 cubits, 500 feet, and 25 cubits wide, 250 feet. So this is another picture of an area. It's football fieldish, and it was a place where people would be gathering before they could enter in to the actual temple itself. And its windows and its porches and its palm tree ornaments had the same measurements as the gate which faced toward the east. That would mean everything is symmetrical. That means north, south, east, west. All the dimensions on every side of this temple were equal. Everything worked out balanced perfectly. I mean, would God have it any other way? I mean, he is so God that he makes everything perfect and duplicatable. The inner court had a gate. Well, now we're getting in there. Opposite the gate on the north, as well as the gate on the east. And he measured 100 cubits from gate to gate. So there's all these different gate entrances, and there's 1,000 feet between them. It's getting pretty big, isn't it? And this is going to be God's house eventually. He led me toward the south, and behold, there was a gate toward the south. Measured it, all those same measurements. The gate and its porches had windows all around, just like the other place. Everything's symmetrical, 500 feet by 250 feet. There were 7 steps going up to it. In Jerusalem today, going up to the temple area, there is still a 7-step entrance to what they call the triple gates from the original temple that Herod built that satisfied the Jewish religious community because Herod was trying to, he wanted to have allies. So, him and Caiaphas and these other high-ranking Hebrew people, he satisfied a lot of their needs by doing stuff the way they said. So there's these steps going up to the triple gate, which is all closed off today. But it's those steps that Jesus sat on outside the temple and taught. And they're there today. It's pretty cool. So here we see that this entrance area had 7 steps going up to it, and its porches were in front of them, and it had a palm tree ornaments and side pillars, all of that. Verse 27, the inner court had a gate toward the south, and he measured from gate to gate 100 cubits, 1,000 feet. So everywhere we turn, it's an even, and that's why I use the word symmetrical. Everything is balanced out, so it's literally perfect. And when we wonder why does God go to all this trouble, it's because he says this will be a house of prayer. Everything is going to be done in a certain way so that all the people will recognize the reality that this is my house and you're here because I've deemed it so. And the fact that it's going to be a house of prayer and has this size to accommodate so many people is a testimony to the fact that it's going to be a place also of fellowship. When the people are all in there elbow to elbow, you're going to get to know your neighbor, whether you knew him or not, or her or not. Everybody is going to have this opportunity to share equally in the presence of Yahweh, which is like too cool. And I picture our lives in glory when we're there, knowing that we can have a face-to-face with the Lord, and maybe he'd even wink at us. I don't know. My prayer is that Diane and I will be allowed to hold hands. That's all I need. Just give me a touch, a hug, That would be great. And when we think about this being a house of prayer, it's not just a place of prayer to pray. It's a place of prayer for answered prayer. And that's the uniqueness about our faith. Because prayers can apply to anything and everything, anyone and everyone, any occasion and all occasions. God doesn't put restrictions as long as it's all good. That's the key. Nothing in heaven will be bad because there will be no sin. That means everything's going to be good and positive and wonderful. Here in this life, people might pray for, something that's really necessary, like a Browns win. In our lifetime, can you imagine Ezekiel praying about, Lord, the Browns are down here and they need your help. And God's going, I don't care. I don't have any ownership in that company. So he's going to make his temple area a house of prayer. And I've got a few texts here to help us with this. Mark 11 and 17, Jesus was teaching. And he began to teach and say to them, is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations? And what does he do when he goes in the temple? You have made it a robber's den, a den of thieves. And he starts tipping over the money changers' tables. Verse 7, Isaiah 56. Even those I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be acceptable on my altar. For my house will be called a house of prayer for all peoples. And this is important for us because the way it's written in the Hebrew is not specific to just Jewish people, the Hebrews. The words that are used are all-encompassing humanity. So it's a temple. It's going to be open to everybody, meaning everybody that's in the family of God. That includes all of us, along with all those saved Jewish Hebrews who have become Messianic Jews. Jeremiah 7:11. Has this house which is called by my name become a den of robbers in your sight? Oh boy. This is when Jeremiah was in Jerusalem before Nebuchadnezzar came and leveled the city. A den of robbers in your sight? Behold, even I have seen it, declares the Lord. So here's Jeremiah during the time of the exile, and he's prophesying what the Lord is saying to the people. You've turned this into a den of thieves, and before long, Jerusalem's leveled, and everybody's gone. They're all in either Babylon or Assyria or some place far away. And the problem that we often think about when we wonder exactly how all this is going to work is what does the Lord really do to make it possible for humanity to gather together at any point in time, at any time in history, and allow all of us to be together in a place? Well, it's a house of prayer, and we know the size of the place is massive, thousands of feet, 8 miles by 5 miles, or whatever the actual dimension is. But we realize there are certain parts of it where it gets very intimate. And one of those is the inner court. And the inner court is this special, unique place that's about 175 square feet. Just it's smaller. And you'll get a picture of this as we go in these remaining chapters. Ezekiel 40, chapter 28. Then he brought me to the inner court. Oh, guess what? It's got guard rooms, it's got side pillars and all that stuff. It's all the same measurements, the gate and the porches, all the windows. All of it is the same dimensions on the outside. Porches all around, 25 cubits long, 5 cubits wide. These porches, and that's what we see in Jerusalem today. What would be considered the porch for that triple gate with the 7 stairs, it's like really long. And our guide was telling us at the time that, this had even been shortened after the second occupants of Jerusalem took over. When the Turks overran the Crusaders in the 1200s or so, they started blocking that off and making more living space. So they actually shortened up the width of this porch. And here we see, this porch, it's huge. It's like 250 feet long. And it's something that was made that way so that all these people that were coming into the temple area at that time had a place to stay. Imagine thousands of people. It's kind of like going to an athletic event or a concert. People line up all around the block and everywhere. And then when they get inside, it's a rush, unless you have specific seats. But it's crazy to watch some of these events on TV where there's no assigned seating and everybody runs to the front. Unless it's a Billy Graham crusade in there, they wait till they're told to come or asked to come, right? He brought me into the inner court toward the east, and he measured the gate according to those